This video is going to show you how, using Google Sheets, to create the chart you're going to need for the lab harvesting chemical energy. So to create the graph you're going to need, from your lab, you want to go find the data table, which is this one here. And then the first thing you need to do is then open a Google Sheet, and you're going to need to transfer the data from this document to the Google Sheet. I have already done that, but I'm going to walk you through what I did. So your first column is going to be the concentration of glucose, and then you need to make sure you're clear and that it's the milligrams per 100 milliliters water. You'll see I took that right from here. You'll notice in the table that this column is actually appearing twice with the exact same data. That's just the way the table is constructed in the lab. When you create the table in Google Sheets, you only did it once, because you're going to then add the other two columns with and without air, so you don't need to duplicate the concentration of glucose column. Then you're going to take your next column is going to be the number of bacteria at maximum growth, millions per milliliter. You'll see I have that here. I also added in my sheet tubes without air because I need to somehow capture the fact that this is the part the numbers apply to the tubes without air. So then I do the same thing for the tubes with air. You will note that I leave some blanks down here. Those blanks associated with these too many to count cells. You can't chart or graph something in Sheets or any other program that uses words, so you just have to leave those blank for this purpose. So once you have all of your data transferred over, and be careful that you don't make typos, because once you make a typo, it's going to make your graph look really weird, and then you've got to go try to figure that out. Now that we have our data table in Sheets, we're going to create a graph. So to do that, you're just going to highlight all of your data, including these cells down here that are blank. And then you go to Insert. Oops, sorry about that. Insert Chart. Google Sheets will pick a chart type that it thinks fits your data best, which in our case is really good. So we now have this chart. We can make it a little bit bigger to make it easier to work with just by dragging the corners. You'll see it's pulled in a title for the chart. It's created a key. It's created a x-axis label, and it's put the data points in here. Now, we need to do some things with this to get it ready for your lab. The first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to fix the title. A title of a chart should always be representative of what it's showing. In this case, to do this in Sheets, you can either double-click it within the chart, and then you can just start typing. You also can use the chart editor and use this little box here. And under chart and axis titles, if you pick chart title, you can go ahead and type here. For this lab, what we want the chart to be titled is the same thing as the table from the lab. Now I'm cutting and pasting from here, but I think you're going to actually have to type this all in, but for the sake of the video, I'm going to do it this way. So I've pasted my chart title in there, and you'll see we have a accurate and appropriate chart title. The next thing we're going to need to do is we always need to label both of our axes. So in this case, I have the x-axis labeled. I now need to label the y-axis. To do that in Google Sheets, you just go over here, and instead of where it says chart title, you're going to pick vertical axis title. Google Sheets uses horizontal for the x-axis and vertical for the y-axis. So you're just going to select that. And then what you need to put in here, these numbers ranging up here are going to represent the number of bacteria at maximum growth, millions per milliliter. So that's what you want this title to be. So you're going to say number of bacteria at maximum growth. And then you always want to be very specific, so you're going to add in the millions per ml. And you now have a label on your y or vertical axis. The next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to have to fix this key. Really what you want this key to show is that the blue dots are the tubes without air and the red dots are the tubes with air. Since we added that into the columns over here, what we need to do here is if we just double click that, it will give us the opportunity to change the legend. So if you just click within this, you'll see over here, you've got your words popped up here. You can just delete that and you get tubes without air. So to show you how to do that again from scratch, from your graph, select the key and then double click what you want to change. Come over here, delete the part, everything up to tubes with air. Delete that and then click back in your graph and you'll see we now have a much cleaner key showing what each dot represents. So we've labeled the y-axis, we've fixed our title, we've fixed our key. The next thing we want to do is to add trend lines. So a trend line is basically gonna draw a line that tracks through these dots. To do that, you can select any dot in the thing, click on it, and you will get to your chart editor. But we want to be in the Customize. Let me double check my notes here. So we're going to go to Customize, and then we're going to go down to, you'll see it's showing our red dots, so we're working on the tubes with air. We're going to scroll down and put in a trend line. You'll now see that we have this line here, and it's using a linear calculation to draw the line. What we want is an exponential calculation. So you'll click there and you'll notice now you're seeing a curved trend line. You're going to do then the same thing with the the tubes without air. So just select one of your dots. Go back to Customize. You'll now see we're working on the tubes without air, the blue dots. Again, you're going to scroll down, select trend line, change it from linear to exponential. You now have the chart you're going to need for the graph. If you need to download or cut and paste this chart into anything else, you can do that from these little dots up here, these little ellipses, or it's called a hamburger menu. By selecting it, you can download it here, and you can download it into an image file or a PDF file, whatever you need.